I still believe we are going to shock people in the short time. Since for us to double from 100 to, or 95 to 200 by the end of the year is very unlikely, at least where it is now and where the implied vol is. So probabilistically it's not there. I've been through this cycle before of innovation. And what I mean by that for everyone listening, so Bitcoin moves faster and technology today moves much faster than it did in the past. What the Mag 7 accomplished from 2007 to today in 15 years, people have to go, you went from 1 trillion to 15 trillion when you combine all that. This is going to take a lot less time. So Bitcoin's going to get to 15 trillion. It's going to happen.
Amid market turbulence and lingering skepticism, Bitcoin continues to prove that disruption, though often doubted, is the true engine of financial transformation. Bitcoin slipped below $110,500 on Saturday, extending its decline from a near $100,000 peak earlier this week. The sharp move erased around $200 billion from the total crypto market capitalization, now hovering near $3 trillion. While short-term sentiment has soured, with investors questioning the probability of a fourth-quarter rally, the longer-term narrative remains hotly debated. Jordi Visser, president and chief investment officer of Weiss Multi-Strategy Advisors, admits he miscalculated Bitcoin's trajectory this year, even suggesting privately that it could double. Drawing on decades of trading experience, he emphasized that being wrong is inherent in markets. Yet his conviction in Bitcoin's future remains unshaken. Visser argues that Bitcoin is still seen as a risk asset, but that's precisely where wealth is built. Just as the Magnificent Seven tech giants became the winners of the past decade, he believes Bitcoin, tied to the digital economy, is next in line for capital rotation once megacap tech stalls. Despite current selling pressure from industry overhangs and regulatory challenges, Visser foresees a violent short squeeze ahead, fueled by Fed easing, strong earnings, and the disruptive force of artificial intelligence. In his view, Bitcoin's path toward a $15 trillion market cap is inevitable, just a matter of time. This is just the beginning of crypto's journey. The real story is still unfolding. Stay tuned, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next big shift in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the future of finance.
First of all, I have been wrong. I've said on here that I thought it would double this year. Behind closed doors to other people, I said higher levels that I wouldn't say publicly. So this isn't like a minor wrong. So people realize I've traded, or I've traded, I'm still trading, but I traded regularly from 1984 is the first book that I got, all the way until 2013 in terms of sitting in front of a screen every day and trading. Guess what? When you're trading, you're wrong all the time, meaning at least 50% of the time around there, you're wrong. So I've been wrong. I will be wrong. In this case, since it's up for the year and I bought some when it was down during liberation time, I'm enjoying the fact that it's up, but it hasn't done well. And I wrote the paper because I was having a conversation with Sam Callahan, who I'm sure you've met, and he and I had never met before, but I've liked his research pieces that he's done with Lynn Alden, and I thought they were very, very good. So we were having a conversation, and at the very end, he just made a statement when we were talking about why it hasn't gone up. I gave my thoughts, which I'll give you, and I wrote in the article, but he made the statement that, yeah, I still think people view it as a risk asset. And when he said it, it hit me that why do people think being a risk asset is bad? The only thing you make money on in your lifetime are risk assets. That's the whole point of it. The point of the article was risk assets come and risk assets go. There are plenty of things like emerging markets are a risk asset, but if you've invested them for the last decade, you haven't made any money. China is a risk asset. It's 10-year consolidation. The only things in the U.S. stock market that have worked have been the Mag 7. So the point of the article was really twofold. One is when you say it's a risk asset, yes, it has the highest correlation based on the work that Lynn and Sam did to global liquidity. Great. But it also is a risk asset in the fact that the way that I think about it, and the reason I said when the Mag 7 is no longer an easy investment for people, that total $15 trillion market cap is going to start to switch into something that is related to the digital economy, which those names are, and Bitcoin, which is, it's a risk asset that's connected to the digital economy in some way, regardless of what people think. And so the point was, if the Mag 7 are no longer deemed a risk asset, meaning they're not outperforming the market, then that's when I think things like Bitcoin will start to find their thing. I will end with one thing here. I do believe that I've said this repeatedly, and I've talked now to enough people. I think you and I have talked about it as well. There's a lot of people from 2022, investors or entrepreneurs who went through a lot of trouble with the government in terms of regulations, and they lost a lot of money in terms of the rise and then the collapse. And even though Bitcoin has gone higher, the rest of the system, if you strip out Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's not good. So I think every time that there's anything, I think there's a rotation that happens. So anyone that has money in Bitcoin, I think it's been a funding thing. I saw this with the dot-com bubble. I really do believe there's an overhang of people with inside the industry that are entrepreneurs, that are innovators, that need to sell to finance other things. I think we're working through that. I still believe there's going to be a violent short squeeze at some point. I've been wrong on that as well, because obviously we've sat here, but I do believe we're going to go higher, because now that the Fed is cutting and now that we're officially in the game of earnings are good, the economy is going to get better because of all the things that are happening with inside the AI action plan, and the Fed is going to be dovish going forward. I can't think of a better solution. I still believe we are going to shock people in the short time, since for us to double from 100 to or 95 to 200 by the end of the year is very unlikely, at least where it is now and where the implied vol is. So probabilistically, it's not there. I've been through this cycle before of innovation, and what I mean by that for everyone listening. So Bitcoin moves faster, and technology today moves much faster than it did in the past. What the Mag 7 accomplished from 2007 to today in 15 years, people have to go. You went from 1 trillion to 15 trillion. When you combine all that, this is going to take a lot less time. So Bitcoin's going to get to 15 trillion. It's going to happen. And I believe it's going to happen in much less time. The reason is because of artificial intelligence. So I started doing this because I like to speak a language where AI is in the middle of the traditional finance world and Bitcoin. And I wanted to bridge those two groups together and say, you have to understand that the fuel for moving money from this side to this side is going to take AI. AI will disrupt all investments on this side, which make them less investable, and gradually people will move into Bitcoin.
From Bitcoin to Elon Musk, the world's most disruptive forces are often met with doubt, yet their impact may be far greater than traditional markets can grasp. Jordi Visser acknowledges that his view may be unpopular, particularly among older investors who often echo the phrase "this will end badly." These are the same people, he argues, who dismiss Bitcoin outright and criticize Elon Musk yet quietly drive Teslas or own Tesla stock. In Visser's eyes, both Musk and Bitcoin share a similar dynamic. They are working, but entrenched skeptics refuse to change their stance because of long-held convictions. He traces this mindset back to the global financial crisis, when bailouts convinced many that the system was broken. Legendary investor Stan Druckenmiller's long-standing call for a bond collapse is another example, an unfulfilled prediction sustained not by stubbornness but by deep conviction. Visser believes the real cracks today lie not in bonds but in wealth distribution. Looking ahead, he argues that visionaries like Musk are critical to creating abundance, even if their missions appear risky. At the same time, Visser warns that artificial intelligence could erode the value of traditional stocks by accelerating disruption, making them less attractive. For him, Bitcoin represents a longer-lasting investment built on belief, resilience, and the digital future. Let's get back to the interview.
I was giving an example to someone. If you understand poker and you're at a poker table, there's I forget the famous line that Doyle Brunson said, but he basically said, if you don't know who the sucker is at the table, you're the sucker. Mm-hmm. Okay. If you're not using AI in your business, if you have a lot of people and you're not using AI, which is the way most incumbents are, they're gradually looking to the CTO. The CTOs at every company I've ever seen think they can do anything better than any existing technology. The incumbents are going to get screwed. So they're sitting at the table and they're good poker players today, but they're not using AI the same way that the smaller kids are doing. And when they get at the table, and once everyone at the table has AI and you don't, you are the sucker at the table. That will happen slowly because the adoption takes time. AI agents are coming. They're coming quickly. And as they come quickly, more and more decisions will be made by computers and less by humans. That's what Bitcoin needs. Because Bitcoin this year, we're talking about it like it's not doing well. It's outperformed the S&P. The only thing it hasn't outperformed this year is gold. That's it. And then some of the foreign markets, but it's outperformed them by a lot. So I think as people kind of get used to this, at some point, just like the Mag 7, this will go parabolic. And I think everything today is happening in about 1/10 the time. So if it took 15 years to go from 1 trillion to 15 trillion with the Mag 7, I'm not saying it's going to happen in 1/10 the time, meaning 1.5 years, but I do believe that people are going to be shocked in this move higher. And the time where this happens is when vol collapses in my history. So Bitcoin saying it's going to double in a year was a very low probability event with the vol at 40. I'm a Black-Scholes guy. It's where I spent my life. The probability of what I was saying was less than 2% at the beginning of the year. I still think this stuff is going to happen. So here,
my theory might be unpopular in this room.
It might be unpopular in this room. I'm going to simplify it for people listening because I really do believe this is it. The people that reached out to me, for the most part, are either my age or older. I would say a consistent theme with those people is the phrase, "This will end badly." Whether it's the same people don't like Bitcoin, they don't invest in Bitcoin. Elon Musk and Bitcoin are basically the same thing, in my opinion. Like it's working, but because they had a stance a long time ago, they won't change. And I've said this to many, many people, and they laugh usually because they know it's true. You will never admit that you own Bitcoin, but you will own it. You'll never admit it. And they might drive a Tesla. They might sit there and they might buy the stock, but they will always in the back of their mind believe that this went badly because that is the same viewpoint that people have had since the great financial crisis when they bailed everything out. Because there were people back then that were literally like, this is going to be the greatest thing. I've been calling for this. I mean, Stan Druckenmiller has been calling for bonds to collapse for a long time. The guy's the most successful hedge fund manager, hasn't had a down year, but that one call hasn't collapsed yet. And yet I'm sure if he was here, he'd say it's still going to happen. Not because he's stubborn, because he believes based on everything that he's learned academically. And he's one of the smartest people I've sat in front of from a balance between understanding markets, but also being just unstubborn and getting out of things. But he still believes it's going to happen, that this went badly because you can't do this. And I happen to agree. I just think from my time at Singularity University that bad things are happening. They're just not happening in the bond market. They're happening in distribution of wealth. They're happening in other places, even though I believe in abundance down the road, which is the other part. But to get to abundance, you actually have to have Elon Musk in the world. You need Elon Musk to get us to abundance. And the irony is he's the one saying the end game is good for everyone. He's the one not wanting to make the money. The reason he wants the $1 trillion is to get everyone on Mars. That's the thing people don't get.
Markets may hesitate, cycles may falter, and skeptics may resist, but transformative assets ultimately endure. From Bitcoin's march toward a multi-trillion-dollar market cap to Elon Musk's pursuit of abundance, disruption rarely follows a straight path. With artificial intelligence accelerating innovation and exposing the inefficiencies of traditional stocks, Bitcoin is emerging as more than just a risk asset. It is becoming a cornerstone of the digital economy. The real debate is no longer if Bitcoin fulfills its potential, but when. Since its debut as a decentralized peer-to-peer currency, Bitcoin's role in financial markets has steadily evolved, with research now framing it both as a speculative vehicle and as a safe haven asset, an evolution that underscores its growing importance in a rapidly changing financial landscape. If artificial intelligence is set to erode the appeal of traditional stocks, could Bitcoin become the ultimate safe haven asset of the digital economy? Crypto is shaping the future, but only disciplined investors will thrive. Cut through the hype, focus on fundamentals. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more sharp crypto insights.